Hello and welcome to another episode of Help Without Borders on TVP World. I'm Rafał Tomański. There is a lot of going around the war in Ukraine, and we need to discuss how to bring the help to the people in need. And meeting the needs of the refugees is a mission next to impossible. With me in studio is Mrs. Swietłana Majstruk from Euromaidan Warsaw. And we'll be joined virtually as well by Mrs. Olena Kossak from Lviv, a psychologist, who will deliver us her insight on the latest issues, of course, with the people in need, with the refugees, and with all the trauma ongoing around the world, excuse me. However, we begin with the latest video that we have on Mariupol, because the city is encircled. There is a siege ongoing for many, many weeks already, and the defenders are still making heroic last stand in this stronghold that we know is Azovstal facilities, the factory, one of the biggest in Europe. So let's have a look at the video at the beginning of our meeting today from the Mariupol.
Маріуполь і маріупольці.
We've just seen the latest video, the latest footage from today from the city of Mariupol, heartbreaking images. And with us is already Mrs. Olena Kossak from Lviv, a psychologist. So let's head to Lviv at the beginning. Good evening at the beginning. Nice to have you with us. I would like to ask you, after what we've appreciate your insight in advance. I'd like to ask you about the effect of all of this on the people, millions of people already fleeing through the border, and we have many of them, the majority of them in Poland. And of course, another millions are being displaced internally, and we're going to discuss it as well in our program. However, let's start with those heartbreaking images from Mariupol. How can you assess the effect on human psychology and on human emotions when we affect them?
We wasn't ready for this war. I mean, that war in Ukraine began 8 years ago. And now it's just another step of war with very big introduction to our country, yes? So some our people was ready psychological, yes? We knew that it will happen, any day it will be. But one way is when you are just saying, okay, what I will do in these days, maybe I will run, maybe I will hide somewhere. But another way, when it happens exactly with you, and you lose control of all your feelings, all your minds, all your thoughts, and these people begin to run. From the first days, people was evacuated from Kharkiv, from another east regions to Lviv. And here we wasn't ready to get these people. It was a little bit not organized, but in 3, 4, 5 hours we began
to interrupt you for a moment, Mrs. Kossak. Just for a moment, we see on the screen photos of your meeting with one of the famous superstars from Hollywood, an American actor, Liev Schreiber. Speaking on the trauma, because we need your insight as well, can you as well describe, tell us a few words about how was the meeting, what was it about, why him, and what was the outcome, please?
Yes, it's very interesting story. You know that I'm the head of the psychological and marketing center, Telepate, and we included our specialists to the some project that provide Americans here with the non-profit organization UkraineNeedsYou. And this organization gathers money to multiplicate our project because we need to help people with trauma more multiply. I mean that we make Zooms with hundreds of people and we can talk to them about their problems. Because when I meet 1, 2, 3 person, it's not enough because there are thousands of people who are hurt now.
So having thousands of people, allow me to interrupt you again. We have as well material ready on the city of containers in Lviv that was opened yesterday with Polish Prime Minister for the internally displaced people. So we're going to see the footage and then go back to you.
We cannot leave our neighbors alone. The worst thing for those who are fighting is the knowledge that they may be left alone. We must maintain the Ukrainian fighting spirit, also by taking care of the weakest. Today, we see in Ukraine how the friendship and partnership between our countries develop. We experience the help coming from Poland. In the name of all Ukrainians, I want to thank the Polish nation.
We just see some footage from yesterday in Lviv. There's a city of containers, and Polish Prime Minister was at the opening. And maybe to our guest in the studio, Mrs. Svetlana Majstruk from Euromaidan Warsaw, what do you think about the situation of the people displaced internally, not only the refugees that are going abroad, but those in need inside Ukraine?
Oh, we have huge number of internally displaced people, as far as you know, and the situation is, of course, for these people are much better in the regions, you know, in the central part, in the western part of Ukraine, but still these people left their houses, you know, they left their relatives in the cities under the war, and of course they want to come back, and even my mother was hosting such family, family of refugees, but you know, they have already came back to their home because they wanted, yes, to plant some garden because the spring and the fields are very important.
But all the time
Ukraine.
inside Ukraine, right?
Yes, inside Ukraine. However, it's still very dangerous to come back to the regions where active fighting continues. And although these western parts of Ukraine are overcrowded, but Ukrainian people, and thanks to the international support, thanks to support of Poland, these communities try to organize the life of such people as much as possible comfortable for them, because we don't know, you know, how long they still have to stay at this their like current situation, being internally displaced people. There are millions of such people now.
And now let's go to Lviv again, to Mrs. Olena Kossak. Have you been able to visit this project already, or maybe do you cooperate with them?
Well, we try to help different projects where we see that people need our help. And turning back to Mr. Schreiber, he was actually in Poland and he was cooking food to people who ran from Ukraine. And we want to say very big thanks to you all Poland people. You are so compassion for us, and we feel you like our really very, very close people. And Mr.
Because
Schreiber,
of the technical difficulties, I need to interrupt you once more. I'm very sorry for that, but the technical issues with the voice make a bit unable to hear. Maybe we're going to listen to Mr. Vakarchuk, a famous singer, once turned politician from Ukraine, with his statement on the current situation.
Hello to you all. I'm in my hometown of Lviv. We thought it will be a calm day, but it didn't come to be. Since the morning, Lviv was under rocket fire aiming at civilian infrastructure. The same story repeats itself day by day in all villages, cities and counties of Ukraine. It is not a special military operation, but rocket terrorism. Russian orcs think that it will demoralize us and we will stand down. But Ukraine is united in face of the invading forces. We want to repel the enemy from our land.
How can Euromaidan help in such situation? You are based here and the war is in Ukraine, so...
Like first, Euromaidan
can you connect this?
helped to coordinate the humanitarian aid delivery to Ukraine, because there are a lot of like stuff, a lot of food, different supplies for people, internally displaced people, and some supplies for Ukrainian military, Ukrainian army are collected here in Europe and in Poland particularly. That's why it's very important to organize these supply chains to Ukraine, and Euromaidan Warsaw is helping to do this, which is like very important, you know, in terms of delivery food, different supplies, and also military equipment for Ukrainian forces. Also, Euromaidan Warsaw is working here with people who had to leave Ukraine. There is a special website created by the members of the NGO where like people from Poland can offer their rooms, their apartments for people who left Ukraine. And of course, we are coordinating with people in Ukraine, with authorities in Ukraine, and we are trying to make advocacy here in Europe. You know, just asking to provide more necessary aid to Ukraine, and especially asking for trade blockade with Russia, between European and Russia.
And we see as well on the screen your protests, your activities in markets, in the companies that have not withdrawn from the Russian market. You as well organize such, I can call it protest because it's like a manifestation of being against that the companies just focus on business.
Mm-hmm. I must say that we are not the only organizers. There are also Polish people who are not agree with the such situation. With some European countries still continue to sell, to run the business in Russia and pay taxes in Russia, because we think that you know the trade is a blood for a country. That's why it's very important now in the current situation where Russia is killing Ukrainians every day, where the situation is tremendously complicated. This ban on trade, on full trade with Russia, will help, to bring the peace faster.
So let's see how such protest looks like on the screen.
Dla uspokojenia sumienia możecie zapoznać się z komunikatami działów PR tych sieci oraz zasłony sił strat w waszych mieszkaniach. Dziękujemy
za wsparcie!
You organize such events not only in markets, in front of them and inside, however, as well in front of the Russian embassy in Warsaw, on the border with Belarus. Can you tell us few details as well?
Yes, we organized, there's a quite big blockade of the European, of the Polish and Belarusian border, which was used by trucks, by Russian and Belarusian trucks, delivering some stuff to Russia.
Stop them at the border, right?
Yes. So our protests continue several weeks, and we call on like every advocacy possibility that we could do. And finally, the EU, the European Commission, in their the latest sanctions package, they provided, this ban on Russian and Belarusian tracks crossing the border between Russia and EU. And we consider it like a big victory, but still it's not enough, because we also trying and we are pushing on of energy ban between Russia and EU. And this, the following days, on 27th and 23rd, we will organized together with NGO working on ecology, a big march across Warsaw from the embassy of Germany, calling on European authorities to stop importing Russian gas and Russian oil as soon as possible.
Right. And now we're going to turn back to Lviv, to Mrs. Olena Kossak. Have you been listening to our conversation, I guess? Do you have any plans to organize such protests, such activities as well in Lviv?
We tried to make all these protests like this that you described years ago when our war started, 8 years ago, not to buy no Russian goods, no Russian products, nothing that was provided in Russia. But we had good cooperation with Belarus, because they got not bad quality of some milk products, for example. But now this all must be stopped, because economical pressure is much more important to make our enemy weak. Yes? So I am very appreciative to our activists, and they are doing everything very good. And all Ukrainians must understand it, and don't forget, don't have no economical connections with Russia and with Belarus. Nothing. That's it brings taxes to them, and they invest these taxes to rockets that fly to Lviv also. Yes.
And it's really feasible, and it's really doable from the people's perspective.
We must talk about this the whole time. When we talk about this and say that it's not good, people will do it. But when people listen to propaganda, watching TV, and say, "Oh, there is nothing so straight, there can be different things," so it will not work. And this is one of the way of psychologists to help people bring one model that will be the most powerful to stay to the end of this war. This is very important. So we must talk about this.
And as a psychologist, let's get back to your experience. How long do you think the people may get back to the sanity, psychological sanity inside themselves after the war?
It depends. But then sooner you begin to do something with yourself, then smaller will be PTSD. And first 1 or 2 months, all trauma is inside your body. Yes, you have tremor, you have nervous, you have problems with. You feel cold, yeah? You have problems with pressure, you have different feelings. This means that your body tries to recover this trauma. When trauma moves from your body to your brains, it is called PTSD, and then we must take more deep interaction into the psychics and help people. And according to statistics, we know that not smaller than 20% of people will have PTSD. It means every 5th person. So we'll have very big field of work.
We have
and also traumatic are people not only who was on that place where was fighting and when was war. When just people see the picture, when they just hear the sound, they are also getting trauma. So Polish people can be also traumatized when they see our news and when they communicate.
Very interesting insight. We have another material ready, and we're going to see Mrs. Wiktoria Pogrebniak, one of the activists, speaking on the upcoming protests scheduled for tomorrow.
We are asking you again to come to the protest tomorrow, 21st of April at 6:30 p.m. to save Ukrainian children and to save civilians that are right now locked in the cities of Ukraine under the occupation, under the bomb, under the air attacks. We are asking you to come and to show European Union how much important it is for everybody to save children and to save human beings. What we are demanding is, we are demanding from European Council, from European Commission, from European Parliament to create an urgent civilian corridors, humanitarian corridor, and to rescue these people, these civilians from the occupied cities such as Mariupol. There is more than 100,000 people who are right now in bomb shelters waiting to be rescued. They don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have everything to survive, and we are the only their hope to survive. That's why we are asking you to come to the city centers. In Warsaw, it's Street Jasna, 1416A. In Prague, it's Václavek. In Lithuania, in Vilnius, it's Town Hall Square. We are asking you to come at 6:30 p.m. and to show by massive protest to European Union that it matters, because European Union will not do anything if they don't see there is a huge amount of people who are supporting Ukrainians. They need to see the massive protest to save Ukrainians. Please help us to save kids. Please save Ukraine.
And now to Mrs. Majstruk from Euromaidan Warsaw in our studio. Just briefly, can you describe us the current situation with the humanitarian corridors around Mariupol?
The situation is very bad, and today it was anticipated that one corridor, to be organized, but it didn't happen, and it continues for several days. Like, people couldn't leave Mariupol, and this is a very tragic situation, because as Victoria said, about 100,000 people are still captured in Mariupol without food, without water, without any medical supplies, and they are literally dying. It's just genocide that is happening in the central part of Europe. That's why we are calling on international leaders. We are calling on international organization, diplomats, to have a look at this situation and to help to organize these green corridors, because Russia and Russian army, they just do anything to make these people die in Mariupol, and we don't have any means for solving this situation, because Ukrainian authorities, they also consider it like a military way of solving this, but it didn't work in this territory, because it's big open territory. The only hope is for international community, which will help to provide these green corridors for people to save these children. For example, in the bomb shelter of the Azovstal, there are about 500 children with their mothers, and they will die if in the upcoming days these green corridors will not be provided for them. And we are begging for international community to help us to save these innocent lives.
Tragic situation indeed. And I guess my final question to Lviv, to Mrs. Olena Kossak: do you still believe in the peace talks with Russia?
I'm a radical person. I didn't believe to no talks to them from the very beginning, to tell the truth. But the hope is the only what we have. And the situation that described just our woman, it's completely truth, and it's happening at this moment. And now in Lviv, there are also hundreds of people from Mariupol who was run from there maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. And I saw and I talked to these people. They are in terrible situation, in terrible stress. They have got traumas physically, and they are in the worst feelings that can live in their lives, because they came here and their relatives stay there without even any connection through the telephone. So this is the most horror tragedy that can happen in these days, and we must wake up every political,
And
in
we
every
need
country.
to
This is the
leave
only way.
our conversation with that. Unfortunately, thank you to both of you. From Lviv with us was Mrs. Olena Kossak, psychologist, with her insight on trauma. And in our studio, our guest was Mrs. Svitlana Majstruk from Euromaidan Warsaw. Thank you very much as well. And that's all for today in Help Without Borders. Stay with us on TVP World, much more still ahead of us.